This week I've got to clean out my fridge. There's a lot of little leftovers here and there. So I came up with this. I'm not even really sure what to call it. A mac and cheese, chicken cordon bleu, penne casserole kind of thing. But have a watch and enjoy. The first leftover ingredient we're going to use is cheese. And I've got a couple blocks and some leftover cheese. And once it's open, you pretty well got to come up with some use for it. Well, I thought a good way to get rid of the little blocks of cheese I've got. So the first one I thought was mozzarella. It turns out it's medium white cheddar. That's okay. They also give it a nice taste. So rather than shred it all up, I decided, well, it's probably just as easy just to slice it. It's probably quicker, a little less messier, and all I gotta do is spread it out in the dish and it'll be just fine. So that's the first cheese. Now, the second one is pepper jack, and I love it like for a cheese tray or what have you. So this way it's gonna give it a little kick. It's not like old cheddar or anything, but it does have a bit of a spice to it. So that's going to give it a nice flavor. And then, of course, the last cheese I've got, which I really got to get rid of, is Swiss cheese. I got this on sale at the grocery store, and it definitely needs to be used up. So now it's on to the meat. I pulled this out of the freezer because it's been in there long enough, and I really needed to use it. And I thought, okay, that goes with my Swiss and ham, chicken cordon bleu kind of thing. So I chopped it up into nice little bite-sized pieces, as you can see, and I figured that'll make a good dish. So once I'm done chopping that and I put it all in the dish, I've got to go on to my next meat, which I need to get rid of, which is cold cuts, turkey cold cuts. Okay, they're at the end of their life expectancy. They're not bad, but I need to use them up because I'm going to throw them out, next week sometime. I've had enough. So I'm just going to chop them up into big chunks, and we're going to put them aside too, and that's going to make part of our dish. How it's going to work out, I'm not sure until we sit down to eat it. I think it'll be okay. It'll give it a little extra flavor. All right, so that gets put aside, and on to the next, which is in a nice frying pan. Heat it with some oil, sliced mushrooms. I had about 5 or 6 left over in the fridge. Those need to get used, so into the pan they go. We're going to cook them down a little bit, and once they kind of get about halfway to where I want them, in goes our chopped onions. Of course, you got to have a little bit of onions in there. Sometimes I like doing 50-50. I'll do half sauteed and half raw, which really gives the onions a different kind of a taste. But so we're going to cook this down, and it only takes a few minutes to do, and then on to the next. We're going to take this off the element, throw it in a bowl, and set that aside too. Well, we're getting close to the prep point where we need our pasta done, so I'll throw in a nice pot of boiling water with a little bit of salt, and I've already measured out my noodles, so when it comes time to throw them in, I know roughly how much I need. So in the other frying pan, I'm going to cook my chicken. Now, I made the mistake of not actually cooking it, and I thought, I'll just peel off the skin and debone it and that, and it proved to be a lot tougher than when I actually cook it first. So I think next time I'd at least give it a cook, and then you can just warm it up. So now my water's boiling, and in go the noodles, and they're going to cook for probably about 12 minutes. You want them to get nice and big, so they can take up lots of room in the dish you're making them in. Don't forget to stir the bottom too, because it just makes a mess if you let your pasta stick to the bottom of the pot, especially if you're the one that's got to clean it up. Once you're done fighting with the chicken, into the pan it goes. A little bit of oil first, make sure your pan's hot. and stir that around and give her a good cook. I made them into bite-sized pieces just so you don't have to struggle too much with them. It's only going to take 3-4 minutes to actually cook this into nice, nice white chicken. Well, along with that, I also threw in a little bit of poultry seasoning and a little bit of pepper. Pepper, I guess, is your own personal taste, what you like. I probably should have put in a little more, but live and learn. The next time I make this, I'll know. And that's the beauty of cooking. If you make a mistake or don't add enough of something, you just remember it for the next time, and hopefully you don't do it a second time. And now we're going to set this aside. Where, get the chicken out of the frying pan. It's nice and cooked now. Smells really good too. So we'll put this in a bowl and we'll put it aside with all the other ingredients. And then we're going to move on to the pasta, which is ready to roll. All right, in she goes. We'll get that all done, and then, of course, because I'm going to be handling it, I'll rinse it with cold water. It's going back in the oven, so it'll heat right back up. But just so I can handle it, I'll rinse it with cold water so that it's not like scalding hot. Now we're ready to create. So take your dish and either grease it up or, like I did, just grab some spray just in case it decides to stick along the edges. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take about 1/3 of the pasta, the penne, and put it in the bottom, and then we're going to build. Now, you just want to grab about half of the onions and mushrooms and everything else, really, because I'm going to make 2 layers, and spread out as best you can. I know it's not easy, but you spread it out as best you can. Chicken's next, and you're only going to use about half of that too. Then you spread it around. So you can kind of see where the cheese is going to come in, because we're going to put the ham on next, and then the cold cuts, and we kind of need something for it to hold together, or else it'd just be like a pile of meat. So that's kind of where the cheese is going to come in handy. So we'll spread this around in half of each again, because I'm going to make a second layer. You don't have to, it's kind of personal preference, right? But I got a bunch of cheeses, so I wanted to kind of spread them around. So the bottom layer I put the pepper jack on, and I kind of wish I would have had a little more. It looks like a lot, but once it melts, it's not quite as much. So then we have the second layer. Now I'm going to tell you that one thing I thought of after eating it was this would have been really good with a can of cream mushroom soup. So next time I think I'm going to try it with half a can of cream mushroom soup in the first layer spread out, and half a can of this layer spread out. Kind of let it melty and mix around with everything else, just to give it a little extra flavor. Oh, and feel free to put some salt and pepper in there too. It did need a little bit, but it's all personal taste, of course. Okay, so the second layer is just like the first. Well, pretty well. I mean, you've still got the onions and mushrooms. You've got the rest of the chicken to use up. You've got the rest of the ham and the cold cuts to use up, which is what I'm doing right now. The only difference is once you've done all that, you're going to put different cheese on, because that's what I got. And then now see if you can guess what I forgot. If you guess putting on the cheese, you're absolutely right. Because after I put on the last layer, I said, you know what? I forgot the cheese. So I literally had to scrape all that off so I could get at it, because, well, I could have put it on top, but I needed it all melty, especially because it was Swiss. I needed it really all melty in the middle. So I took it off as best I could and put the Swiss slices because the cheddar I'm going to put on the top layer. We'll get the last of the penne on top, and believe me, this is a full dish, but man, it sure looks good and it smells even better, especially when you bring it out of the oven. So of course the last thing to top on it is the white cheddar cheese, and it may have been because I really didn't have a ton of cheese that the cream mushroom soup came to mind. You know, it always looks like a lot, but once you melt it, it's not as much as you might think. So yeah, a little extra flavor would have come in handy. I guess if you wanted, you could probably put some spaghetti sauce on, or you know, white sauce, whatever you want. Whatever you want would work. All right, so the last thing I put on was a little extra pepper. You can put on whatever kind of spice you want or don't want. It's all up to you. And into the oven she goes, 20-25 minutes, and when she comes out, it should look something like this. Time to dig in. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this enjoyable and informative, and that you learned something. I know I did. If you've got a comment, leave it below. Give me a like. I'd sure appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, as always, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell. That'll tell you the next time I upload a video, usually once a week. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Bye for now. We'll see you next time.